and welcome back. Adventure and self-realization. Following the footsteps of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, Jai. Continuing in Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Chapter. So, many times more inclusive, prominent, important than all the other verses because of the essence, entire reality of Krishna consciousness, faith to prema, loving, pure love, overwhelming, maddening love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, our best friend, philosopher friend, as Prabhupada calls him in Jaya Radha. Janvalabha Girivaradha Rajanaran Radha Gopi Janvalabha Girivari Gopi Janvalabha Girivarada Nanda Sodanandana Prajanana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Gandhiham Jayaranta Madhava Kunjari Upidana Malama Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Haribo Hari Gaur Haribo Nitai Gaur Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Gorani Tai Jai. Jai after Tarsa Shishi Mother's Divine. That's Babaji Maharaj. Shri Guru Pram, Wait to get out her Shivasana, Gomer Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shama Kunda, Ravan Mathura Dama Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dama Ki Jai, Shri Dwarka Dama Ki Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Shri Kirtan Yoga Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Distribution Ki Jai, Shri Shri Guanatai Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Subhadhan Baladev Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Ki Jai, Shri Nara Hari Bhagavan Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'll say the sins to myself. Again, we're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. 4. Sambhavi Tashmi, Akirtim infamy, Cha Api and above, Bhutani, all people, Kati Katai will speak, Te of you, Agya for respect people, Krishna speaking to Arjuna, people will always sin for me. And for this, then death. Please repeat. People will always speak of your infamy. And for one who has been honored, report and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives the final judgment if the battlefield, people will call you before your actual flight. And if you think that people may call you bad names, die in the battlefield. And from losing your prestige in. So the final judgment of the Lord was for awe. Namaste, Saraswati. Lower body fraternity. Near Viseshas. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar. Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Rama Rama Hari Hari. Mukam Kroti Vachanam. Panga. And a dumb man can compose eloquent. Check this out. Looks like there's some problem with the street. You're there, Arjuna. Help me out. There's an indication on this that there is some problem with the street. So now, in Chapi Bhutani Katayi Shanti, Sambhavitasya Chak Atirichate, people will always speak of your infamy. That Lord Krishna is so. This is significant that a friend is not someone who's sentimentally from some difficulty, because a real friend is a philosopher. one who understands the great fire of the great supreme. So, and also different because they're individual, eternally individual. Does not mean something, so it is the softest. And it is also the toughest. So I've entitled this session today, Krishna's Tough Love. So on the one hand, Krishna's he's Arjuna's friend, best friend, and he's his only eternal friend. So I should say, more correct, is our friend. Krishna is our best friend, and he is our only eternal friend with all the power, all the ability, all the knowledge, all the care and that we need. So on the one hand, Krishna is giving us explanation of everything. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a chapter entitled Time, based on on the basis of the movement of the atoms. Quantum physics, whatever the speculations are about quantum physics, Krishna gives it all without speculation, as it, not how it might be, how it probably might, how it could be. This is the kind of words that so-called scientists use, but that's not science. Science is about is the study or the understanding of what actually is. And because it actually is, it can be evidenced, it can be experienced, it can be tasted, smelled. Not necessarily on the physical platform, because what is the physical platform doesn't actually exist. According to Bhagavad Gita, the body doesn't actually exist. And we don't deny it, but Krishna says, those who are seers of the know that which is eternal has no cessation. Does this body have a cessation? Yes, it has. Whatever is born has to die. It has a beginning of cessation. So it's not eternal. And of the temporary endurance, does this body endure? No. It's conceived, it grows, it creates some offspring or some byproducts. Form. So the body, in that sense, the body is not real. And that doesn't justify ignoring or neglecting or mistreating or abusing the body. And we take care of it because we have it temporarily. It is a vehicle now for our deliverance. In fact, in that sense, it's necessary and it's invaluable. Not advance in Krishna consciousness. They cannot advance in spiritual life. They need that. We need that vehicle. So, since the body is not real, but it's necessary, which may seem like a contradiction, but it's not. If I have a car, if I have a Volkswagen, I use it and I take care of it. It's not going to last forever. It's going to deteriorate, rust, whatever, and fall apart and need to be replaced. Does that mean I don't take care of it now? No, Krishna consciousness, do our best with this body, keeping it good in good health. Prabhupada said we should live as long as we can in good health, so that we can do here and now. This is the perfection of the philosophy: be here now. So Krishna, as a philosopher friend, he gives us all the information we need, and he encourages us by his love, his everything we need: the air, the water, the sunshine, the ground to grow, the earth to grow the vegetables, the cows and the grass for the cows. Prabhupada says, eat nuts and bolts. You may use nuts and bolts. You can use the nuts and bolts, but we don't eat them, and neither do we think they're going to give us liberation, advancement, any kind of advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we want to have, Krishna gives us that instruction, and as a friend, he also shows us the consequences. Is that unless we advance in Krishna, pure lovers of Krishna, mad after Krishna, like Lord Chaitanya, anything without not live for even a split second without serving Krishna, without associating other Krishna-minded people. And that verse we sing every morning, and Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Shri Charanara Vindam. Spiritual masters who hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes. The word tik means every split second. Pure devotee cannot bear not to be thinking about, dwelling on, absorbed in, and serving every split, anything but every split second. It's intolerable. So we want to have that kind of friend, and is a philosopher, meaning they're Krishna conscious. They understand the difference between reality and illusion. Myself or yourself or your friend soul, full of knowledge and bliss, not the body. So we may be sentimental about the body. We may want to ameliorate the sufferings of the body and mind, and that's okay. But we don't do it separate from Krishna consciousness. How can we ameliorate our friend in Krishna consciousness? How do we do that? Well, I'm sure you have some idea. Please put in the chat. How would you do that? Help relieve a friend's physical or emotional or psychological distress in Krishna consciousness. Please share some ideas how you do that. Maybe you're doing that already. Probably are. And in any case, how someone else might do it. What would be you could give someone if they came to you and said, "Look, I have this friend that's suffering like anything. I want to help them in Krishna consciousness, but I also want physical or mental suffering. How do I do that?" So then we become the friend of the person directly, or the support and friend of the person who's trying to do that for someone else. Whatever way, whatever level it's on, whatever directly or indirectly, to be a philosophical friend. So we want that kind of association. We want that kind of company. We want to mix and rub shoulders with that kind of person. So that we, on the one hand, we give clear instruction, which reality from illusion for their benefit or the other person's welfare. And we also want to let the consequences of not doing that. Krishna is making that very clear to Arjuna. It's not a question. It's not a challengeable possibility. Someone who deviates from Krishna's following Krishna, the mind tends to take us away every moment. Why? Because Krishna is not there. The ultimate suffering is to forget Krishna, even a split second. The greatest suffering of the soul, of you and me, is to forget Krishna, even so. And yet we are so desensitized and because Maya has two potencies. The spiritual understanding, realization, and she covers. She covers that. It's inconceivable that a soul who's suffering the worst by forgetting Krishna, even for a moment, has no apparent awareness. There's so much ignorance. Krishna's potency, Krishna's material energy, the lower mode, lowest mode, is all powerful in this world. Of course, to leave that, to cleanse that, to let it go, the other potency, where there's light, there can be no darkness, automatically. So the more we take up Krishna consciousness, we struggle to take. We want to be friends based on what we understand from Bhagavad Gita, from Prabhupada, from more. So Arjuna, if you don't follow my instructions, if you don't fight the daily battle of life, who is Arjuna? Supreme Personality of Godhead as his person. He's so great that our Krishna personally is chariot driver. Krishna would do anything for Arjuna. He did say he wouldn't fight. He wasn't going to take sides, but he told Arjuna, I'll be your chariot driver. And Krishna, Sanjay at the end of Bhagavad Gita said, where there's Krishna Arjuna, there's always success, victory, opulence. Knowledge, prosperity, everything is there. Everything. So Krishna took that position, and Arjuna had the supreme personality of Godhead, of everything, material and spiritual. Krishna, I pervade and support the entire creation, material and spiritual. Not that the spiritual world is created, but all existence is the foundation, the support and the life of everything. So Arjuna has this inconceivable person as his friend, as his chariot driver. Try to understand Arjuna's position. So if someone who is such a position, he's so well known and so universally, what will it be like for you, Arjuna? Or what will it be like for you and me to give up that position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead the source and the life of everything as our dear friend, which is we may be fallen, we may be forget, but Krishna's always there waiting for us. Even we may disregard him. Krishna's always there. He's never resentful. He's inconceivably patient and tolerant. But his patience and tolerance doesn't mean that he's going to stop our suffering materially. And even though from the spiritual suffering is insignificant, we experience it as terrible. This body of mine is getting old. So what's the story of the beautiful lady and her attracted the potential paramour? This man, he wanted to have time, he wanted to get to know and associate and maybe marry this beautiful lady. And she was a real philosopher friend. She knew the reality of spirit and soul. Distinct self and him, everyone. She had that, please come back in 4 days. So she took lots of purgatives. She, which caused her to pass all the stuff from the body, and she took purgatives and constantly, day after day after day, and her body became depleted and empty and withered and she she said to him, that radiant, she said she's back. So then this lady, who was the same person, with the withered body now, said, "Oh, yes, I stored all the stool and the urine, and came into the next room, and she had all these from her body right there, and she said, here it is." And she realized, yes, this haggard woman, this drained, wrinkled, shriveled, all these liquids and solids from her body. This is her real beauty. So he got a wake up. He got an instant. So this energy works, and Krishna is telling the advice what to do, what's best for him, and he's also consequence. So Krishna gives us both. And as we know in the 18th chapter, was 65. You consider carefully. Prabhupada says, this is the best way to surrender. As using intelligence as far as it goes, not that it's everything, but we have to use our intelligence to understand how to surrender best. As far as intelligence goes, Krishna continues, and you do what you wish to do. I'm not in front of you. What is possible, and the consequences of not in your life. So it's important for us to make that distinction and take a step back from the illusion that there's anything else. And that includes knowing if we don't take Krishna's advice, you do what you want to do. He never, Prabhupada says, Krishna never interferes with the minute independence. It's always there. We always have a choice with the prescription and the prohibition. If we sick in a certain way, we've overeaten, and the body will develop serious disease. The consequences are there. So we have what we should do, what's good for us, and which will happiness, ultimately liberation in Krishna consciousness. and the consequences. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And enthusiastic more and more, always unsteady. Yes, we experience highs and lows, but as we go through an to ourselves, but more and more steady. Stop struggling, we stop endeavoring. No, it means we become steady in our schedule, in our discipline. Just like now, we have our 5:30 condensed Mangalactic program 4 days a week. My aspiration is to make it 5 and 6 every day. So I'm getting up by 4:30. Ultimately, I'm working on that. It's a work in progress. So I'm reaching to myself as much as anyone else. To always be attractive, what is good, what is beneficial for me, what will free me, what will give me liberation, what will make me, what will be satisfied. When we serve Krishna, we become satisfied. When we do what's best for our devotional service, when we adjust Krishna, for Prabhupada and Krishna why, we automatically separate from that. And Krishna expressed as one of the consequences of not following Krishna, of avoiding or minimizing or allowing ourselves to space out, to forget, to be complacent, and not remember the reality of the possibility and the consequences of not accepting the possibility. Then we suffer. And this is in the extreme, the suffering in the extreme is what Krishna is pointing out here to Arjuna, that you're such a glorious person. You've lived gloriously. Your whole history, your whole life has been glorious. You were challenged by Lord Shiva in the form of a hunter to fight. And you fought so valiantly, so purely, so powerfully that Lord Shiva was defeated. And he gave you that special gift, the Pashupashastra weapon. Honored even by Lord Shiva. And Krishna himself honors Arjuna. You're my devotee as well as my friend. I guarantee you this. You'll come back to me. You'll have everything, even in the here and now. Many times, Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya bless devotees to have all material opulence here and now and go back to Godhead after this life. Now, if we had that benediction, we might become a little complacent. At least I can talk about myself. So Krishna doesn't give me that yet. And yet that's what he's waiting. He wants to give me that. So and we can put ourselves in the position of Arjuna, which is what we're meant to be doing. We're supposed to take the position of Arjuna and take Krishna's instructions as if they are directly given to us right now. And Prabhupada says that. He said, Arjuna had Krishna personally in front of him. I don't have Krishna personally in front of me now. Prabhupada says, if you read Bhagavad Gita as it is, there is no difference. Krishna is personally there in front of you. Krishna is personally there in front of us, with us, when we hear and chant and discuss, especially like this, Krishna's words. Because there's no difference between Krishna and his sound vibration, his words. In the same way, there's no difference between Prabhupada and his words. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whose appearance day we just celebrated this past week. What did he write? He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die, for thou art living still in sound. He reasons ill. He says, he proclaims mistakenly if he says that a Vaishnava dies. Vaishnava never dies. Prabhupada is with us always. He was, he is, and he always will be when we, as much as we follow his instructions. For thou art living still in sound, living still. The Vaishnavas die to live, and while living, spread the holy life around. So, the sound vibration of Krishna or his pure devotee are eternal, eternally potent. We may be connecting with them or not. That doesn't change their potency. They're always right there on the shelf. And we would need to move things from the shelf more and more into our own consciousness and make them solid, nishta, steady. And we should associate with and hear from and support, encourage, appreciate those who are helping us to do that. Because the more we appreciate those who are helping us to do that, Krishna and his representatives, the more Krishna is pleased, and the more he will bless us, the more he will give us the intelligence to understand whether we think we're intelligent or not. Krishna gives us, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Intelligence is not a material thing. Spiritual intelligence, the vigyan, the realization, is not a material thing. Krishna gives it to us, and we can have that as much and as long as we want. Krishna says, you do. Krishna is saying to her, you do, you and I. You do what you want to do. Because if you don't, you get a consequence. One time a devotee asked Prabhupada, why does Krishna allow people to sin? Why does Krishna allow people to be sinful? And Prabhupada said, Krishna does not want people to sin. Krishna does not want people. In this is actually in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 18, text number 3, purport. Quote, why does the Supreme Personality of Godhead permit sinful activities? The Supreme Lord does not want any living any living being to act sinfully. And he begs him through his good conscience. He begs him, Krishna begs us through our good conscience to refrain from sin, conscience. But when someone someone in Simni sanctioned to act at his own risk. No one can do anything without the sanction of the Lord, but he is so kind that when the conditioned soul persists in doing something, the Lord permits the individual soul to act at his own risk. At his own risk. And this is the risk. If you don't do what I say, if you don't take the good advice, and I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to. I encourage you. And I don't want you to do anything else. But you choose. If you don't do that, if you and I don't do what Krishna is advising us, suggesting we do, without forcing us, we get humiliation. So Arjuna, he's risking the greatest humiliation. And we may not understand the depth or the severity of the reaction Arjuna's got to get, but Krishna makes it very clear. One who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Dishonor is worse than death. And we know from our own experience, our own limited experience, if someone badmouths us, or insults, or minimizes us, criticizes us, defames us, how do you feel? Think of a time when someone insulted you, even a so-called friend. They insulted you, they minimized you, they demeaned you, especially with others. Excuse me. They badmouth you to others. How do you feel? I know because of my false pride, I feel angry. I feel terrible. I want to hurt that person. I want to jump up and smash them, or at least insult them back, and at least counter their insult. It's humiliating. It's hurt. It's painful. It's disturbing. And how much we think about it. This person said this about me. I'm trying to chant my rounds, and this person did that, and did that. And how am I going to get back at them? How am I going to prove that they're wrong? So important that I'm right and look good in the face of others. How do you feel when that's a word, but bad mouthing, and be honest. That's just temporary. That doesn't matter. That's just about mind. But if we're honest about how we really feel, without covering it up, without avoiding the actual experience, not that we should wallow in it. And I know myself, I often do. I'm scheming how to show people that they're wrong, and actually what I say or what I do. In the case for me, unless I'm very, very strong, and I come to the point of connecting with my real deep spiritual satisfaction. Now, it's not okay for someone to badmouth another, anyone. Prabhupada said we should call each other Prabhu. if I'm calling someone Prabhu, then I'm a bad method. I may have some constructive criticism. I think that they could, in some way, how they might improve, but I don't blab that in public. I don't just let my tongue loose in village talk, gossip. Thank you. What should one do if one brings up something with another, in case not a practicing devotee, and they become offended at attempt of honesty and feel I have judged and blamed them? Then you're asking that if I bring up something with another, I assume that do that, and I've judged and blamed them, and they cut you off. They cut you off. They cut us off. Okay. Good question. Thank you. I'm interested in what you did or anyone else. Tend to try to improve them, but I see that they're not willing to take that as a support, as encouragement. So there's two things. I can look at whether I could have presented it better, more effectively. Did they fully understand? Did they get that I understood them fully first? That's where I start. At least that's where I intend to start. Whether I always do it or not, that's another matter. But my intention is to listen to them about their difficulty, if they're willing to talk about it, and simply listen and reflect back what I've heard, what I understand they're saying, and what they're saying, and the feelings connected with it. Because when someone feels that I deeply understand, I've crossed the bridge from my world into their world, I'm willing to suspend or expect is right or think is right, and enter there. I suspend that. Don't give it up. My opinions might go into their world, absorb and see the world, see the situation, see the challenge, the difficulty, the weakness, whatever it is, from their point of view. And when I reflect that back to them like a mirror, what they've said and what their feelings about the potency of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting in interpersonal relationships. So when that's there, the trust automatically comes up, develops, because they see that they get a message from an unspoken message from me that I accept you are, that's completely fine. Your feelings are valid. Whether I agree with them or not, that has nothing to do with it. We suspend that. We don't give up what we see as right or wrong at all. The sacred space, we call it, that often encourages them to go more deeply. And when that's so sad, that's so gratifying that someone's actually willing to understand my feelings, my thoughts. mice, whatever it is. Anything goes in that realm. They may be ranting and raving about who you respect. They may be insulting them. So because we listen and validate that, doesn't mean we agree with it or we accept it, but the foundation of relationship is there. We're not going to be able to help them. So cut off because they haven't felt that you really fully where they're at, feel respect. Indirectly, they may feel disrespected or undervalued or not valued enough. Prabhupada says, you listen to them and they may talk all kinds of nonsense, but if you actually really listen to them and you relate to them in a way that they get that you've understood them, that they'll experience that. It's not just an intellectual thing. Okay. You felt in the past that you have spent hours listening. Well, this is where further intelligence is required. So yeah, it doesn't. People have their choice. People have their choice. So you've been willing to do and not actually reciprocate. We have to distinguish who we associate with. Seen Krishna consciousness on and off for years, stand because of some deep attachment or pride within himself to become insulting or on certain very controversial subjects. So I've discussing with him directly, back and forth, and listening to him and reflecting. And I also put in because we have quite a way over time, so anyone who can't stay further, that's fine. But and back, apparently not having heard or considered what I did, even after validating and honoring and listening to him and not accepting, but and honoring his own opinion. I see he came back without any apparent adjustment or continue. I couldn't, or I wouldn't, or I could be very straight with it. That's gone down to the bottom of my priority. 2 months, he sent me this last message, and I could have initiated another one-on-one discussion, and I've chosen not to. There's so many other people who are actually serious and eager, or at least open to I have niece who has gone through a terrible breakup of her. Says he wants to have some help and understand how he went off, or how he messed it up, or how his part of the problem. Please do this, and I'm suggesting do this and this, and share it with me. It might take you further. And I've heard nothing back. So I come the goods. We have to be going to suffer. It's better you die than be dishonored. And Prabhupada, in one lecture, Prabhupada is he quotes on the battlefield. If you're not going to follow my advice, you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. Krishna is telling Arjuna, better you die. We can try to understand how he, if we don't hone practice. I mean, you've had a certain experience. That we have to be more discriminating in a healthy sense. Because we have to protect ourselves. We have to, our time, Krishna's time, which we have to use or to abuse, that's most valuable. And how do we come to a higher, improve our ability, either by learning and reflection, or politely, respectfully, distance ourselves. Because this approach, which I think is a realistic application of Shravanam Kirtanam, then I would feel sad. Maybe I haven't done a very good job of supporting you and encouraging you to improve yourself better. That's I'm taking the risk to do that. Sharon, Hare Krishna. Just like desire trees, and the desires of everyone who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Panchakalpam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Vaishnavabhyo